Okay, now we're going to do data input, which you've already done quite a bit of in homework and so forth, but we're going to learn some new ways as well. So he says now that you have data structures, you need to put some data in these structures. As a data analyst, you're typically faced with data that comes to you from a variety of sources and in a variety of formats. Now, I'm just going to stop here for a minute. I want to show you one thing. A student came to me and they were having trouble with the data that they got from Kickstarter, their own data, and they were doing some plotting and it wasn't working out for some reason, and we couldn't figure it out. And I played around with it for a long time. Then I finally saw this. So the data looked like this. It looked fine. Thought it was no problem. And looked at this column, and it seemed like no problem, but it kept loading it as a factor. It kept making this into a factor, and I couldn't understand why. You know, this is numeric data, and it should be fine. And it should not be, so it should be treated as a numeric vector, not as a factor, So one thing I wanted to make sure was that the commas that were in here were just formatting and they weren't actually typed in there. So I think that it may not be a good idea to enter commas in general, but that didn't seem to be the real problem anyway. I'm not sure about that, but finally I looked at it not through Excel, but just through Notepad++, and this is after trying for a couple hours trying to figure out what was wrong. But finally I saw this. So I couldn't figure out, as I said, why is it treating that column as a factor, meaning why is it treating it not as numeric data? And you can see, let's see, maybe if I do this, let me set this differently. Right now I have word wrap on, but let me take that off so that, okay, now we can see it sort of as more clearly as the rows that it is. So this is the first, so this is what the headers for that, it's the header column, I'm sorry, header row. And then the first row of data is here. So this is the first piece of data for, I guess I have to go back and show you. So here's 365, the next one is 421, the next one is here. Now maybe, well, let me show you. So 365, 421. Okay, maybe they typed in a comma, and then Excel, when they saved it, put these around it. So maybe the lesson is that you shouldn't type in commas. I'm not sure. But anyway, you can see that Excel put around some of the numbers, put quotation marks. So once it does that, then it's going to think that the whole column, this whole column is not numbers anymore. It's going to treat it, I'm talking about R, it's going to treat it as textual data or strings. Okay, so I'm not sure why it did that because I didn't save it, but maybe, I don't know why. I don't know why it did that, but it seems like it only did it for the ones that have the commas in them. So maybe someone typed in commas, and maybe that's the lesson, is that you shouldn't do that. Anyway, let's go back. Go back to here, and we want to put data into our data structures. And we've done this so many times. Your task is to import the data into your tools and analyze the data. So here are the ways that we can enter, the types of data that we can enter into R. So we can enter Excel data, we can enter data by using the keyboard, we can use SPSS files, we can use lots of different files, we can access databases from R, we can put in text files, we can do web scraping. Okay? So this is the sources of data that can be imported into R, but that doesn't mean it's easy to import them. As you see, it took me hours to figure that out. R provides a wide range of tools for importing data. The definitive guide for importing data in R is R Data Import Export Manual, available here. As you can see in Figure 2.2, the one up above, R can import data from the keyboard, from flat files, that means just like text files, from Excel, and from Access, which is a Microsoft database, and from popular statistical packages, from specialty formats, and from a variety of relational database management systems. So if you know what that is, great. If you don't worry about it. Because you never know where your data will come from, we'll cover each of them here. You only need to read about the ones that you're going to use. Well, we're going to look at a little bit more than just what we're going to use. But so we'll start with entering data from the keyboard. Then we'll talk about using this R Data Editor. Then we'll talk about importing from delimited text file, which is what we've been doing with the read table. And then we'll talk about how to import Excel data in a kind of maybe an easier way. And XML data, we probably won't talk about that. If you need to do that, you can look it up. And web scraping, he just says, basically you can go to here and find out about it. So also importing data from SPSS, or if you are needing that, you can look for that, but we won't talk about it. From SAS, I doubt many of you will have to do that. From Stata, you may have to do that if you're working with another professor who is using Stata, but you can look up how to do it. We won't cover it. I don't know what this is. Common data form. And I don't know what that is. And this is from database management systems. We won't have time to cover that, but if we need it, we'll come back, but I don't think we'll use that. I don't know what these are. Okay, so we'll do this in the next video.